quite often at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I think one of the questions to ask is it the writer or is it the book that's the problem? And if it's the writer that's a problem, there's a couple things you can do. I find that it's very useful. What happens is if you're writing under deadline and you're stuck because the pressure is so hard that it turns your editor on and you cannot turn them off. And writing, you have to give yourself permission to be bad. The first draft is you're playing. This is the part of your brain you played house with your friends and your doctor, if you're a certain kind of person, with your friends when you were a kid. You have to give yourself permission to play, and you go in and you play when you write your first draft. And then your editor turns on and you go, oh, that was crap, and you fix it. But if you start out with, oh, that's crap, then you can't get to the part where it's fun. So if it's you, there's some really useful things to do. My writing group is really great at short, useless exercises. Just really silly things. Start with a weird prompt. Like a friend of mine did three anthologies, and the first line of your story had to be, there were rats in the souffle again. And it was awesome. It was awesome, and he had big name writers do it, and he had little name writers do it, and there were 3 of them, and they were terrific. So just grab a weird first line and write 3 pages. Anybody can write 3 pages, and by limiting it to 3 pages and not having to have a beginning, middle, and end, maybe you can rediscover that person who plays. If it's not you, if it is the book, then you have to backtrack, and then you have to figure out where you went wrong. But 9 times out of 10, when I'm stuck on a book, it's not the book at all. It's me, and I need to just relax, especially once the books went big, because that put a lot of pressure on the next book's got to be really, really good, right? Because people are, because a lot of people are going to read it, and I'm going to really screw it up, and nobody's going to read me ever again. Whereas if you sell 10 to 14,000 copies of the book, it's like I can be as bad as I want to, right? So it's a matter of figuring out where your problem is.
All right. Actually, yes. And is it okay?
Oh, yeah. I was thinking of faces, yeah.
Yeah. Thinking about what you just said, Patricia, it's true. Somebody who's another author said to me, I think the reason you're stuck with this book is because you associated with a time in your life when you were at the hospital every day with your laptop, then you'd go home, and after putting your elderly mother to bed, you'd work from 10 at night to 4 in the morning on the book, and then you'd get up at 7 a.m. the next morning and do it all over again. And I did that for like 5 months. And she said, I think that you associate this book with a very difficult time in your life. And I think you should just put it aside for now and work on something that gives you joy, and then you can get back to the joy in the book. Because there's a lot of joy in this book for me. I'm not giving up on it. So thank you for that comment.
Yes. You guys keep leading into the questions I have next.
We're psychic.
You are. It's amazing. What is the... Oh, well, we've still got some time. Well, 10 to 15 minutes. I was intending this will be my last question. That's all right, before I open it to the floor. Actually, before I forget to say it, when we do questions, I'm going to ask, because there are so many people, that you not tell us the story of your story, that you keep it to a question. Okay? All right, so my last question to you. What was the best advice you have received on how to get past that muddle in the middle?
This panel.
I already gave it to you. Go, give yourself permission to go play.
While I think that backtracking can help you find a problem, I would say don't retreat into revisions. Don't think, well, I'm having trouble with this, so I'll go back and I'll start revising the whole book, and then do everything you can to keep on moving forward. If you have editorial things that you know you need to fix in chapter 1 or chapter 6 and you're on chapter 15, make a note to yourself, put it in a file, and keep track of it for later when you do revisions. But do everything you can to keep moving forward.
Assuming you work on a computer, putting footnotes in is very handy. Now you can go back and put a footnote. You mustn't do this or whatever to yourself, and then of course you take those out later. But I think the best advice I ever got was something I read, I can't remember who wrote it, that there's 2 kinds of editing, like your own editing. You either change the story or you change the text, the manuscript, and don't get them muddled up. Don't spend days and days and days dotting I's and punctuation and so on, when what you really need to do is hang the guy and bring in somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Who has the first question? Raise your arm high, because I'm short. Lady up front?
Is it a mistake to let popular demand, i.e. your editor, push you into writing a sequel or a prequel that you really don't want to?
Can the
Yes.
people in the back hear that? I just want to make sure. Okay.
Yes.
If you don't love what you're doing, it shows. And I don't care how experienced a writer you are. I don't care, you know, you can think of yourself of a series that you read, and you can tell exactly when the author loses interest. So, yeah,
The
absolutely.
most popular thing I ever wrote was The Seventh Sword, and the series, the trilogy. It sold 100,000 copies each. Well, of course, that was years ago. Do it now. And lots of people asked me to write more. And I said, no, there's no more story there. And about 3 years ago, I thought, yes, damn it, there is another one. And I wrote a fourth book to that trilogy. So that was a gap of about 23 years.
Yeah, I think that anytime you're writing for any other reason than because you have a story to tell that you want to tell, it can cause problems. That's why I was saying the other night during the speeches, love what you do, because the story that you love, no matter what the market is telling you, that's going to be the story you write best. And you know, we can get obsessed with hitting that moving target of the market. You know, all of a sudden, you know, vampire hamsters are the thing, and you really want to write your vampire hamster story to catch that wave. But by the time you're done with it, you know, gerbil zombies are the thing, and nobody's interested in vampire hamsters at all. And so you write the book that you want to write. You write the Ninja Squirrel story because that's the one that speaks to you.
Anthology idea.
All right, the next hand I saw was somewhere in here. Yes.
I was just wondering, getting to the middle and realizing that this character who's been here all along needs to be a point of view character. Can I just have them start being a point of view character now, or do I have to go back and give them point of view chapters over?
If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, then you have to move back. But you can tell. Yeah.
It's your book.
Yeah.
All right, other questions? Oh, okay.
I was wondering, are there any books that you've abandoned in the middle, and if so, what was the experience of orphaning your book like?
Umpteen. I've probably got a dozen books on file on my work in progress, or shouldn't be called that, I guess. And my feeling on doing it was relief. Now I can do the other story that's coming up in my subconscious. That's when I know that I've lost interest in the book, is when I start thinking about the next one.
Anybody else?
I have a book that I've written that my kids really want me to publish. And I have abandoned it because I know that I don't have the voice right, and I'm on the third draft of it, and every time it's just wrong. And as Dave says, the feeling is relief. I mean, every time I sat down to work on that book, I was fighting with myself, and fighting with my characters, and fighting with my story. And there's no fun there. There's no fun there, and I do this because it's fun, because I'm not getting paid well enough to do something that's not fun.
Well, yes, I have a lot of books that are sort of in abeyance, but there's one that's just been put aside for a while, a book on collecting, and the publisher I was working with, we weren't communicating, and so they wanted one thing and I wanted another. And so the advice is, I have this manuscript, I've been shopping it around, and the advice I keep getting is use your own voice. The riffs you do on collecting and what it's like to be a collector/hoarder are the most interesting parts of the book. But, you know, for now, it's just on a shelf.
I'm going to turn that back to the audience before I get to the question in the back. How many people have abandoned at least one book? All right. Yay. Good for us. How many people plan to go back to it? All right, all right. So not quite the same number of hands. Elizabeth in the back, please.
For any of you, when do you as a writer stop editing because you're stuck in the middle and and turn it over to your official editor at the publishing company. Because some of us may be perfectionists and thinking it's not good enough, it's not good enough, it's not good enough.